Welcome to What Do You Think? We've got our panel of experts here talking about the hot topics in the South Bay. We've got Kevin Cody, publisher and editor of the Easy Reader, Brad Jacobson of Civic Couch Media. We've got Carol Glover, local realtor and attorney, and Michael Keegan, former mayor of Hermosa Beach and local business owner as well, Manhattan Bread Bagel. Thank you all for being here today. We've got a lot of hot topics to cover. Start with, though, electric scooters. 300 of them were dumped in Redondo Beach, no business license, no approval. They just put them out there and said, hey, this is what we're doing, deal with it. How was it?
30 minutes were free, so they didn't need a business license.
Is that why?
We think so. We're not sure. But it was a pretty good...
Wait, what was that?
Well, you could take it for 30 minutes and not pay.
Right.
So it may not have been a violation of the business license.
So wait, we could pick up a bird and ride it for 30 minutes for free?
Yeah.
Right now.
But they also didn't go pick them up after 30 minutes either. I mean, so
Yeah.
what
They're
happened?
still there.
They're still there. They're still there.
Yeah.
But is it a good thing or a bad thing? Do we like electric scooters?
It was a pretty brazen move on their part, let's say. And the city council is just furious.
Well, it's kind of the Uber model, right? Asking for forgiveness than
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people riding them on the Strand, Hermosa Beach. Of course, you don't need helmets anymore. None of them had helmets. Some of them looked under 16. I don't know what the minimum age was.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were riding on the bike path where you're not supposed to have any motorized vehicles.
That's a codified code that says you can't have any mode of transportation on the Strand that has a motor, and that's been in place for almost 100 years.
But the broader issue is the streets
Right.
and the sidewalks.
Right.
And the reality is we've accommodated cars all these years. And suddenly the guy comes up with something that weighs 28 pounds, costs under $1,000, and will accommodate, according to Wired, and I'm getting all this from Wired magazine, 60% of trips are under 5 miles and there's one person. So you could eliminate those 60% of trips. And the cars are kind of an eyesore if you want to look at it in terms of congestion, especially if you're on a street. So
We're driving down.
it's
yeah,
hard to argue
September.
against the idea of these little micro mobile devices.
And electric bikes are coming on, but the other thing is, are people following the rules? They're supposed to follow the rules.
There's confusion here. What are the rules? I mean, you're saying that helmets aren't required, whereas I was...
State law changed just recently,
Okay.
not requiring the helmets anymore because they lobbied the legislature to get the change, and the governor signed the change, so you don't have to wear helmets
Now, see,
anymore.
I think that's...
I think
personally think
that's only if you're over 18.
Yeah, well, I think that's a mistake. And
Yeah.
I understand that you also are supposed to be 18 to even rent them, right? But I think they're highly useful. I mean, I was just in Santa Monica and they were everywhere. And, you know, the whole last mile and short trips, why shouldn't we have something like that? But it is an issue because people, you know, it's always the one or two people that instead of putting them to the side of the road, they just...
I've never seen anyone actually use them to go get transportation, to go use public transit, to do that first mile, last mile. I see people who don't want to walk, substitute it for walking. I don't see people actually using them for transit to use the public transit, not to get on a bus, not to get on a...
What about if they
Green light.
find the user, because they know who the user is when they rent them, because
Right.
you have to use that app. And so what about if they dump one behind someone's car or in someone's yard, which I hear a lot of complaints of?
Right.
Why not find them? If there's a way to call, like maybe on that app you can report a bird dropped in a bad location. Okay, hey look, there's going to be a $50 fine if you dump this thing where it's not supposed to be dumped.
I think the other issue is geofencing. Are the companies willing to geofence certain areas like sidewalks or major streets like Sepulveda? For instance, if along the beach, right, if they're not legal to have on the Strand, then you'd want to geofence the Strand from having them.
Well, what
Where they
about a
can't be
larger
used.
question? They're storing their bikes on the sidewalk. Can I start parking mine and lock it up and leave my
Just anywhere.
bike stored out on the sidewalk if it's secured? Can I put a bolt down even, or are they going to need to do that later? Or
Some cities have addressed that by having painted areas where you can only leave them in the painted area, like a little parking.
That makes more sense because
Right.
you can't leave your bike anywhere if you leave it. And what about if they're blocking egress in
Right.
an area where there's not wide enough for people to get by, or in an area that's inappropriate? How do you regulate that?
Scooter
Well,
bed.
I like the idea. I think it's poorly executed.
Yeah, same. They're gonna have to work out the same as when they started using cars. You know, the people are gonna have to learn to be courteous
Yeah.
and not And and the helmet, that's the one caveat, I can't believe the legislature allowed that to get through.
Yeah.
And that's not an insurmountable problem. The idea of thinking that people are gonna carry their helmets with them is not practical.
Right.
They've got to tether a helmet to this scooter, and that problem's solved.
I don't think a lot of people are gonna wanna put on a helmet that's been put on by everybody.
Oh,
just
light.
that's an
Yeah,
issue.
that's
Just
good.
don't think,
Sweaty
Okay.
flies.
after
Yeah.
I've
There's
had
probably
mine
a
on, does
solution to
anyone
that,
wanna put
though.
it on, you know?
Little spray
I
can
don't
with
know.
you.
Yeah.
You get like bowling
Good or
shoes.
bad though? Scooters, good or bad?
I would say scooters need to be looked at and studied a little more. I'm glad they're out there. We can test them out, and I think eventually in another year, we'll have it settled.
Agree. I don't know if it's going to be another year, but I think they just need to be regulated and fined because if there's errors or you don't use them properly, I think that's the only way to do it.
Like a traffic ticket.
Yeah, or actually through the app itself, like Brad was saying, you know, you dump it in the wrong place, you get a fine, you know, so that people are held accountable for storing them correctly once you use them. And I think safety's a big issue.
What do you think about the dumping though?
Something's horrible.
Like the business just
I
dumping the
it's
scooters
horrible.
in and then
Imagine us,
trying to
and
sort
that
things
leads to
out
my
later.
question is this a gateway to somebody saying, I'm gonna do the same thing with bikes? I'm gonna do the same thing with mopeds.
That's why
And
I
all of a
said
sudden,
Uber,
now we've
right.
got scooters, we've got bikes, we've got skateboards. You could do that with any product.
So could be a good thing, but follow the rules.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. I want to thank our panel for being here and giving us your expert insights. We're going to be bringing more people in to talk on what do you think, and we want to know what you think by commenting below and also liking and sharing.